Hi folks, Tris here. Thanks for listening to Modem Prometheus, and thanks especially to all of you who have joined our Patreon. We don't run ads, so the whole podcast is supported by you. If you'd like to help out, head over to patreon.com/Modem Prometheus. Members get free merch, early access, bonus episodes, and a lot more exciting stuff. Today's story is called Going Out by Day, Taking Any Shape Desired to be Taken, and is about things which are incomplete.
Part 1. In the hours after Eliza died, she shrugged off her skin much in the manner of someone throwing off a duvet and went out into the world as a cat. She had died on a cold day, a November day, a day when the rain barely had the energy to fall and had drifted against her windows in a sad drizzle. She remembered thinking, what a thing to die on a day like today. Everything is given up. I'm just beating the rush. But now, as she feels the ground through new pores and the breeze on her tabby-striped fur, the sky is brilliant, and the world shines like ice, and the air is crisp and fresh and bright as a button. And she thinks, well, that was an excellent decision. She has the nagging feeling that she should be doing something, going somewhere, but it's hard to care when she's so light that she doesn't even cast a shadow on the ground. She thinks it has something to do with the fact her house is now a pyramid, sat in the middle of the terrace, the processionary obelisks encroaching a little on number 4's front garden. She licks her paw, for a cat a shrug, and trots down the street. It will come to her. Right now there is nothing more important than the spring in her back legs, the ease of a jump, and the confidence in walking along a high wall. She thinks of her old body, clumsy, slow, every joint complaining when asked to do its job, and decides she should have done this years ago. She had known she was dying, known it with a terrible clarity, probably only for a minute or so before it happened. As if her brain was sending warning signals to every vital system that this was it, the clock was winding down, will the last one to leave turn out the lights? Long enough to sit in that battered armchair she'd kept thinking about replacing, long enough to wish she had somewhere more comfortable, and long enough to fear. The seconds get so long when you're scared of what happens after. Nothing to worry about, she thinks. Maybe I'll be a bird next. She almost misses the other cat in her reverie. This one is all black and sits loaf-wise on a higher wall, with not a care about how it might get down. Eliza looks up at it cautiously. She sits on her haunches and twitches an ear, which, as you most likely do not speak, cat, I shall translate for you. Good morning, she says. Who are you? I am Pepsi, the other cat says with a yawn. And you are not a cat. I can be whatever I want to be, Eliza says. Perhaps so, Pepsi says, as long as what you want to be is not a cat. I don't see why you get to decide that, Eliza sniffs and trots past Pepsi. The black cat calls after her. You will find the temple on the ridge. Climb as high as you can. It's hard to miss. Something clicks in Eliza's head. That's what she has to do. She has to go to the temple. She must receive judgment, weigh her heart against a feather where the unworthy are sent to be devoured in the pit of Ammit, and where she will be sent to paradise, the field of reeds. How did you know that? She asks. Because I am a cat, replies Pepsi, as if that is all the explanation required. It's quite a thing, to die alone, and Eliza was alone, as she had been for some, many years. ever since the event. There had been people since the event. Eliza had let them into her life, and she had laughed with them, and drunk with them, and talked with them, and slept with them, but she had done all these things while still feeling very much alone. Eventually these people too had drifted away, to closer friends or the children Eliza had never had. So when she had died, she wasn't just mentally alone, she was actually alone. In her little one-bedroom flat, with the tired furniture and damp in the bathroom. It shouldn't have been that way, she thinks. Paul should have been there. And Bethany. And Thomas. Thomas most of all. She wonders, for perhaps the 1000th time, if he ever realised what he'd done to her when he'd walked out the door. Thought about how it had felt to be told he was leaving and have her life fall out from underneath her. But now it was her time to have her life judged, to be vindicated. Will you be vindicated, Thomas? She thinks. How heavy is your heart? She shrugs off her skin again and spreads her grey-green wings, taking to the air as a parakeet. The mechanics of flight confuse her briefly. When to flap, when to soar, how her long tail adjusts airflow, but soon she is high in the crystalline air. She wheels, dives, catches a sunbeam in her claws and pulls it behind her, leaving a golden trail across the city. It catches the top of her pyramid and it shines like a lighthouse. No one on her street is commenting on the pyramid. Not even the busybody Mrs. Sinclair at number 22. People are walking past as if it's just any other house. She has not yet realised she is being hunted. From this height, the ridge is unmistakable, rising above the city's southern reaches. It's not somewhere she went much in life, its boutique shops and expensive houses not providing much of a draw, though she had enjoyed the museum of all things that sat next to the abandoned railway line. But despite this, it was always there. The transmitter mast visible for miles, even if just a light in the distance. And with these new eyes, it looks different. The houses and boutiques are gone. Instead, a vast wood covers the top and rolls down its slopes. Where the transmitter mast stood, there is a temple, built from giant blocks of yellow stone. A plaza in front lined with obelisks, 2 lion statues guarding the giant door. One looks west to yesterday, the other east to tomorrow. Dishes of burning oil flare on either side. She isn't sure whether the version of the world she lived in or the one she moves through now is the real one. Maybe both of them. She lands on the plaza, shifting herself back into a cat, and sits in front of the door, waiting expectantly. The door does not open. There is a grinding of stone, and the lion statues rise from their plinths and land in front of Eliza with a crash that shakes the trees. "You may not enter," says yesterday. "You have not completed the tasks." "Complete the tasks, and you may proceed to judgment," says tomorrow. Eliza looks up. Each lion is the size of her pyramid. "What must I do?" "Bless the one who wronged you," says yesterday. "Bind the shadow wolf," says tomorrow. "Weigh your heart and recite your sins. Complete the first 2 tasks, then enter the temple for the 3rd. Complete all 3 tasks and be judged." "And then?" Eliza asks. "That will depend on whether you are worthy." Are you worthy, little cat? Eliza bridles, licks a paw in frustration. Of course. Then prove it. Eliza spreads her wings and flies. And the shadows follow behind. The box is dark. The box is cold. The box is full. It is full of her. Every movement smacks a joint against its rough, hard walls. She is lying. She knows she is lying because she feels the pressure against her back and not her feet, but she doesn't know why she's lying, doesn't know why she's here, only knows there are walls and a roof and they're all too heavy to move. She yells, she screams and doesn't make a sound. Eliza met Paul when they were both students, her studying history, him studying business and management. She'd met Bethany at the same time, then his girlfriend, later his wife. Still presumably his wife, despite everything, though after the event, she'd lost touch. It feels cruel to say now, but Bethany never made that much of an impression on Eliza. She was naive, wearing left-wing badges and berets that didn't suit her, and all her opinions were thrifted from people who spoke at marches. She clearly made more of an impression on Thomas, who would talk animatedly about her politics, while she and Paul rolled their eyes and discussed literature, music, ancient civilizations, and wine. Thomas she'd met through Paul. They'd grown up on the same estate, but while Paul went to university, Thomas became an apprentice electrician, he'd said. But she knew he wasn't entirely serious. He had talked to Bethany, but he had doted on her. How things change. She tried to look Thomas up, many years after the event. When social media had become more pervasive, she had never found him. Either he stayed away from the platforms, or his name was just too common. But there are many advantages to being whatever it is she is now, she thinks. A ghost, a soul, a little god. As she leaps from wall to wall as a cat, flies across roofs as a parakeet, slips through parks as a fox. She wants to find someone. She knows where they are. And Thomas was maybe 10 miles away from her house, perhaps for the whole time. She finds herself outside a simple terrace, roses in the front garden, dormant for winter, but which she sees with translucent blooms, ice crystals dusting the petals. There's a cat flap in the door, which Eliza takes as an invitation, and enters. He sits on a battered sofa, old and fat and bald. A pair of glasses sit on the bridge of his nose, and he is staring at a newspaper crossword, pen poised, but as yet without any answers. She hesitates in his living room doorway. Something makes her think he will recognize her and sneer. She has an awful premonition of Bethany, a far older, happier Bethany, coming down the stairs, laughing at what's become of the scorned woman. Her parents had not entirely approved of Thomas when they met him. The rough edges he'd cultivated reminded them too much that they were only one redundancy away from social housing. Her father had said he would break her heart, which only made her more eager to marry him. He turns and smiles at her. She remembers that smile from when she was telling him about her PhD thesis on ancient Egyptian coffin texts. She remembers it from their wedding. "Oh, hello," he says as Eliza walks over and sits down next to him. "You're new. We have dreamies somewhere." He gets up with visible effort and walks with slow but steady steps toward the kitchen. A woman comes in. It's not Bethany. She's somewhere between 5 and 10 years younger than Thomas, by Eliza's guess. She looks at Eliza and rolls her eyes. "Have you found another stray?" "She found me," Thomas says, "entirely different." And so you're giving it treats. The woman was probably very pretty once, Eliza thinks. She can see why Thomas had been attracted. Dumpy now, though. I aged a lot better. Of course. If I don't, she might not come back. Just one. We're home from home for enough of them already. Yes, dear. Thomas winks at Eliza and fumbles with the packet, dropping 3 dreamies onto the floor. The woman shakes her head indulgently. Softy. Eliza wolfs up the dreamies and slinks back to Thomas, who has sat back down on the sofa. She leaps onto his lap and looks at him. You can't understand me, she says. Not sure you ever did, if I'm honest. But I want you to know. I forgive you. For leaving. For everything. You seem happy. I hope you are. Thomas looks a little bemused, receiving that, as he did, as a head burrowed into his armpit and a mournful yowl. Eliza jumps off his lap, feeling good about herself. She has no need for grudges now. She will shed them like a skin, leave them behind, leave the world better than she found it. But before she has even reached the door, that world has faded. Thomas has faded, the woman has faded, and she is left standing in black, the one shining thing. In the darkness, something growls. It bleeds. It knows it bleeds. It can feel the damp of the blood smeared across its legs, smeared from the scraped up edges of its hands which have spent so long beating against the box's cold stone walls. It cannot see the damage. It cannot feel the damage. There is no stab of pain to confirm the body still cares about itself. There is just the feel of skin on broken skin, like a tattered sponge that needs replacing. There is a scrape. A lurch. The box is moving.
You forgive him. You forgive him.
A voice comes from somewhere beyond sight. Female, feral, a voice full of teeth.
What gives you the right?
Eliza feels her hackles rising, her tail puffing out like a mushroom cloud. Who are you? She asks. The voice ignores her.
You think there is anyone who should seek forgiveness from you?
It is closer now, and Eliza can hear soft, padded footsteps circling around her. They don't have to seek it, Eliza says. It is freely given. The growl again. The voice sounds angry now.
You think it is yours to give?
A portion of the darkness fades, and Eliza sees herself as she used to be many years ago. She sees herself with Paul, in a knot of limbs and sweat. She sees them across a desk, in a car, in multiple beds. No, she says, that wasn't what happened.
Lies!
A shadow detaches itself from the darkness and pads across her writhing form like someone walking in front of a movie screen. Eliza can see muscle, fur and teeth.
I was there!
Eliza backs away a little. Maybe it is her new feline perspective, but the shadow wolf is huge. Bethany? The wolf gives what might be a laugh, and the picture changes to Bethany, crying, alone, in what had been their little suburban semi.
That pathetic bitch. No, she would never have the courage to hurt you the way I am about to.
The wolf leaps, graceful and terrifying. Eliza dives to one side on instinct, skidding as her paws fail to find purchase in the dark. The wolf has vanished again, hidden in the deeper darkness.
"I will catch you, little cat,"
the wolf says.
"Do you like this game?"
"I am not a cat," Eliza growls, and shrugs off her skin to take the shape of a bear. She swipes at the wolf as it leaps at her, but it's stronger than she thinks, her blow connecting with its flank like she'd just punched a wall. The wolf rips at her side and she screams as her body is torn. She shifts back to a cat and runs, limping, while the wolf follows slowly behind her.
"I know what you are,"
it says.
"Self-important, self-regarding, a stain on what you could have been. You dare forgive that man for leaving you when you were the one who cheated on him."
The world lights up with images of herself and Paul, surrounding them like an IMAX. "It wasn't like that," Eliza says. "That didn't happen."
"But you recognize them, yes?"
says the wolf.
"Every one a fantasy, every one a desire."
Eliza backs away. She can feel the fury rising off the wolf like steam. "There's no harm in a fantasy."
"And was it always a fantasy?"
Eliza tries not to look at the images, but they are in every direction. "Once," she says quietly. "It was just once. And I told him. I felt so guilty. I confessed."
"You tell yourself that,"
the wolf says.
"but you still don't know why I'm here."
It leaps at her again, fast as darkness. Eliza throws off her skin and flies, parakeet wings barely making it away from the snapping jaws. She flies straight through the vision of her own naked body into the clouded sky, and the wolf follows, prowling a diagonal path up towards her with no regard for gravity or ground. Sunbeams lance through the cloud cover, and the wolf weaves through them like a hawk in a forest. And Eliza thinks, aha. She flies upward, higher, higher, higher than any bird should go, until she bursts through the clouds and into the shimmering, icy sunlight. And she waits, circling. But the wolf does not come. Hypothesis confirmed.
"You have not won,"
she hears, an echo in her mind.
"You cannot stay up there forever. And I can wait."
I could if I wanted, Eliza thinks. But that is not the plan. She dives down, folding her wings and letting speed whip her tail feathers. As she breaks the cloud cover onto the dull world below, she grabs the sunbeam that has been streaming through the hole she made and pulls it towards the shadow wolf. The wolf growls and backs away from the burning light, but Eliza curves straight past it and comes back around again, pulling the sunbeam behind her in a loop after loop until the wolf is caught in a spherical cage of light. "I confessed," she said, staring the wolf in its burning red eye. "I apologized. He walked out, and it ruined me. For how he hurt me, I forgave him, because I can. Because I should have done it earlier. Because I can forgive who I damn well like." The wolf tests one of the shining bars of its cage with an experimental paw and yelps. The paw is partially dissolved. It curls up, facing away from Eliza.
"You still have no idea," it says. "Your heart must be very heavy."
"Light enough I can still fly," Eliza mutters, and makes for the ridge where the temple towers over the city. She has blessed the one who wronged her. She has bound the shadow wolf. She has one thing left to do. There is talking. It thinks it is talking. It has the rhythms and cadence that sound like speech, but there are no words it can hear, just scratches and static like the background noise of a well-worn record. It has been bumped, tossed, moved at surprising speed for something as heavy as the box must be. The scratches stop. There is a moment of silence, then a scraping, and the world is filled with terrible light. Eliza returns to the temple door and sits in front of it, tail wrapped across her feet, and waits for it to open. "You have returned, little cat." "I have." "Have you blessed the one who wronged you?" "I have." "Have you bound the shadow wolf?" "I have." Tomorrow looks across at yesterday, who nods imperceptibly. "Then enter, recite your sins, and be judged." She goes into a vast anteroom. Black marble obelisks line a walkway to a far door which is dwarfed by the size of the wall. The walls themselves are covered in symbols. She sees 4 people appearing over and over, 2 men, 2 women. Then after a while there is just 1 woman, a sole recurring character in the cast. It's my life, she thinks. My life in pictures. The door at the far end swings open as she approaches. The room here is far smaller, barely the size of her old kitchen, and the walls are plain, unmarked stone. Inside, incongruously, is a desk and an office chair, on which a robed figure sits. Feminine hands showing their age are scooping seeds from a pomegranate into a bowl. The face is invisible, hidden by the folds of the hood. It ignores her. Eliza waits as the figure keeps scooping out the pomegranate seeds. Eventually, she says, "Hello." The figure pauses and appears to notice her for the first time. "Yes?" "I wish to recite my sins." The robe considers her for a minute. "No." "What do you mean, no?" The robe has finished scooping out the seeds, and now takes one to what is presumably a mouth hidden under the hood. "You have used that word many times before. You know what it means." "But this is my final task. I need to do it to pass on to the field of reeds." "Correct. But you're not ready for it yet. There's nothing of you. You don't even cast a shadow." "You have myself," Eliza says. "What more do you need?" "Your heart," the robe says pointedly. "You came here for it to be weighed, yet you left it in a pyramid across town. The fact this is a problem should not come as a surprise." "So what should I do?" "Bring the rest of you. You know where it is." And so, Eliza returns to her pyramid. Pepsi is still sat outside, lounging on the garden wall. She doesn't acknowledge him, and he flicks an ear as if to say, "You are becoming a little more cat." She remembers the relief, stepping out of here. Remembers the slow, stodgy meatiness of her old body. The heaviness, the stench. It won't be for long, she thinks, as she paces toward the burial chamber. I just have to bring it. I just have to show the slow, stupid thing. For the last several years, her body had been a house, but not a home. Her mind had ranged free, but was limited by her joints, her fading eyes, her deteriorating skin. Her body had held her down. Her body had been a cage. And now, her body is gone. She looks at the empty burial chamber, the scattered Ishabti, the air where her sarcophagus should be.
Modem Prometheus is written by Neil Murton, the voice of the city is Kate Angier, with music and production by me, Tris Oaten. For free merch, bonus episodes, and behind-the-scenes content, support us at patreon.com/Modem Prometheus. If you're not ready for that kind of commitment, please rate and review us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this right now. The final part of this story is due on the concrete moon, the 24th of February. Look after your body. You never know who's going to need it one day.